This is it, one last day for the AWC in this spring season, and then we're going to know every single team that has made it through. I can't believe 6 weeks have already gone by, and when we do look at these squads as well, we're going to see crazy changes that have happened even throughout this season. Crazy changes that happened when we got here the first week and how they've all panned out. There have been some big surprises already this year, and we got to see what this last day has in store for us. My name is Rich. I'm joined on the desk by Zico, Supatees, and Ben Ruki. And let's start to talk about some of these squads. We're going to take a look at North America first, but were there any big surprises in NA overall this year? Like, we talk about the roster changes that happened, and we look at this region, Zico, and it's a region that seems like every player found a home that made sense for him.
Yeah, I mean, if we compare it to last season, we really only had 2, maybe 3, if you want to count in the Frogs as well, as those top squads. It was mainly between, the Move and Method Orange. But this year, we have a lot of strong rosters here. We got Super Frogs, the boys all of a sudden joining in the mix. We got Method Orange, M2KC. A lot of strong rosters have formed here, and yeah, it's coming down to the wire as well in terms of who is going to get that last qualification spot. We got M2KC and Never Lucky right now in contention.
And we're going to be taking a look at North America a little bit later on in the day. EU is going to be our primary focus as we get stuff started. Now, as much as NA, we're still trying to figure out who those top 4 teams are in EU. We don't have to do that. We just need to see who's going to win this cup. Method Black versus Wildcard Gaming, upper final, first series of the day. Ben, how many times have we seen this already?
It seems like time and time again. In the first 2 cups of the season, Method Black ended up winning. The last 2, Wildcard Gaming have won. So this is an opportunity for Method Black to try to put another point on the board, advance to the grand finals, and really show that they can still hang with Wildcard Gaming.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about Wildcard Gaming, this team has just been on fire recently. Let's take a look, though. After we see Method Black versus Wildcard Gaming, we got 2 more series for EU. Then we know who the final champion is for this 6th cup in that region. Then we figure out which team is actually going to make it to land for North America. All we need to see the Mew Mew Kitty Cats do is win 1. If they win 1, they go. If they don't, well, we might have to add a 7th match to this lineup. We may have to do that tiebreaker scenario. We will have to see what happens there, but let's talk about Wildcard Gaming just a little bit more, because this team last year, they looked great. Zico said that they were basically his favorite team, barring Morrow, obviously. That was a change for Walrix, which happened at the beginning of the year. They tapered off. I would say they lost a little bit of steam, maybe around Cup 2, 3, something like that. They still managed to do very well, but this year it's the opposite. They've just picked up momentum time and time again.
I mean, the last time we saw them go head-to-head, at least in previous tournaments, at the summer finals last year, it was 4-3. So Looney's team was almost able to beat Method Black in that finals to qualify last year, and they've been getting closer and closer every year. Now with Morrow substituted on for Walrix in this current meta, it makes their team even more powerful. However, moving forward, if Warlocks end up becoming more and more prolific, then potentially it hurts them later on. So that decision right now has evened them out. I mean, we can look at their stats. They've got the exact same win rate. They've been going head-to-head constantly in the finals, with only the Pumpers sneaking in for 1 cup to take that away from either of these teams. And they're just adapting to each other every single weekend. They're coming up with new compositions and new strategies to employ against each other.
EU tournaments are basically just where these guys hang out.
Look at this. Who could have guessed that in the blind pick?
Here we go. This is a good way to start things off. You can vote in the chat right now. Hashtag MB, hashtag WCG. These guys, every single Sunday, it's just their opportunity to dance with each other. And the dance floor for this blind pick going to be in the Grand Arena.
Yep, and once again, Method Black, they're trying to find an answer for the Windwalker Death Knight of Wildcard Gaming, and they may have found one with the Frost Mage Windwalker Monk, but unfortunately for them, Wildcard Gaming, they read their hand, and they know exactly what to run, and that is going to be that Elemental Shaman Moonkin Restoration Druid. I'm still not 100% sold on this composition. Method Black could definitely still win this one.
Yeah, this isn't a matchup that we get to see very often, but Wildcard Gaming dodge a bullet by avoiding this Windwalker Mage. They would typically want to be playing their Mistweaver Windwalker Death Knight, but we've seen that this Windwalker Frost Mage is able to actually deal with it quite effectively. So Wildcard Gaming anticipated Method Black using this to counter-comp their main composition, and then locked in this Elemental Shaman, balanced through it to try and get an advantage through this manner. But we still aren't 100% sold or confident in this composition's capability after its performance yesterday on Never Lucky. It looked kind of shaky, but of course Zeepai is one of the best elemental shamans across the globe, so potentially going to be showing us that this composition packs a little bit more punch.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see what exactly Waz can get done on that Windwalker Monk. I don't think we've seen him on Windwalker Monk for quite some time. It might have been last year is the first time, or the last time that we saw him. Chaz moving in, looking for some crowd control. Finds a Cyclone onto Looney. Unfortunately, was denied by Zeepai. Really good backup. Zeepai always backing up his team with really well-timed grounding totems and earth shocks to slow down a lot of that crowd control, and that's going to be his role in this particular match. It's going to be up to Morrow and Zeepai to make sure Raikou can never really find opportunities to land polymorphs onto Looney, and that's what's so difficult for the Frost Mage in this particular matchup. You have Looney, who's a Restoration Druid with an Elemental Shaman backing him up, so getting polymorphs on him is not an easy job. And then Morrow, of course, on that Moonkin. With Moonkin form, he's going to be immune to polymorphs, so a lot of that Frost Mage control is not going to be really benefiting Method Black in this particular matchup.
Which is why we see Morrow as the target of choice for Method Black. That way they can still access the polymorph diminishing return on at least one member of the team, that being Zeepai. I'm curious to see what the strategy is here for Wildcard Gaming. Early on, it appears that they're just focusing on deflecting Waz, trying to keep him at bay with pressure, potentially punch through for a kill if he's not careful. One big Earth Shock, and it could just be a KO for him, so he definitely needs to be aware of that while he's pushing forward. After Looney comes out of this Cyclone, I'm curious to see what the mana situation is, if there's any lead establishing itself there. Definitely in favor of Wildcard Gaming. Pressure on both Raikou and Waz. I'm wondering how much Zeepai is utilizing the recent changes to the reductions in mana cost on Purge, if this is why Chaz is struggling so much more so on mana than that of Looney.
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely be a huge factor in this particular matchup. I think Restoration Druids are one of the healers that might struggle with something like Purge being on a lower mana cost, as well as the Dispel Magic from the Shadow Priest and Discipline Priest. We have yet to see that really play out too much in favor of the Discipline Priest, Shadow Priest, and Elemental Shaman, but like we've sort of said, Chaz behind on mana at this point in the game. I'm not sure if he's ever going to be able to really sneak away. It seems like Zeepai's been doing a really good job making sure he stays in combat. They have good, consistent pressure in this matchup, and speaking as a Windwalker Monk, it can be very difficult, especially if Waz is not running the Tiger Eye Brew specialization, to take down a target like a Moonkin. And when he does go into bear form, he's going to have heavy armor, and Windwalker Monks don't exactly have a lot of damage that goes through those high armor targets, so it can be difficult, and the damage you're able to put out is very limited.
Waz looks like he wants to start pressuring Looney a bit, but is going to be pulling back. Having realized that Chaz and Raikou repositioned, they would be overextending quite heavily. I'm curious to see how well Wildcard Gaming can deny Chaz from regenerating his mana on drink attempts. That's going to be the name of the game for Wildcard Gaming. Focus on defense, get your setups on the Lightning Lasso, and burn down Chaz's mana as fast as Teldrassil. Looney jumping to Morrow to try and get to safety. Manages to reposition, avoiding any sort of double stun. Raikou gets bursted pretty hard here early on. Chaz denies it with Iron Bark. That should buy time for Raikou to counterattack. We see pressure on Morrow. How is Looney going to respond? So far, only exchanging the Innervate, at least getting a couple powerful heals for free, but likely we will see a cooldown forced here, and if it's underreacted, possibly a kill. Looney now gets swapped to, caught into a bash, pressure onto two members of the team. Looney once again reluctant to make a trade on cooldowns, remaining calm, cool, and calculated, not overextending his defensive lineup whatsoever. Waz now getting bursted. Chaz's mana still significantly behind, and Wildcard Gaming continue to march forward with their advantage.
Yeah, definitely. Wildcard Gaming is looking very good in this matchup. Raikou with his Icy Veins wasn't able to get a whole bunch done. Morrow looking to get aggressive right now with his Incarnation, but Raikou's doing a really good job. You can see his positioning right now, making sure he's always weaving in and out of the pillar to avoid the damage Morrow can really put out. Raikou trying to build up significant burst now by just spamming up some Frostbolts, and if they can get some good crowd control onto Looney with all that Frost Mage damage ready and available, they might be able to actually burst Morrow down. He gets offensively cycloned and interrupted. Raikou really just going for raw damage at this point in the match, not looking for crowd control. Looney, in the meantime, sitting down for a drink. he has full faith in the fact that Maro's going to be able to stay alive, especially with some of the off-healing Zeepai has available. Now Wildcard Gaming is in an opportunity where they completely reset their mana.
That Ring of Peace from Waz missed Looney. He was able to regenerate to full mana and establish a huge lead just as Dampening enters the fight. Exactly what Wildcard Gaming needed to get even further ahead. Zeepai going for a Lightning Lasso. Tons of damage tossed towards Raikou. I do like the coordinated effort between Maro and Zeepai. Maro is always saving his Astral Power to combine with the Lightning Lasso. This way, their otherwise very low sustained damage is then more effective combined together with Burst on the Lightning Lasso. They're playing this a lot more coordinated than the previous Elemental Shaman Boomkins that we have seen, trying to capitalize on as much burst damage as possible. Waz taken fairly low. Iron Bark appears to be enough for Chaz to recover. He's trying to sneak away. Maro sees that, and the other advantage of this composition is access to a spell called Starfall, but Chaz expects Maro to Starfall that pillar, so Chaz repositions in stealth. Zeepai knows he's in stealth and picks up the Shadow Sight Crystal to try and find him. Zeepai is now hunting Chaz. Everything is all about Zeepai stopping Chaz from jinking. Chaz is still not sat down, realizing that Zeepai can see him. He may not even be able to find any sort of opportunity, at least managing to regen some mana just from being out of combat, but still significantly behind.
Yeah, definitely. Looney pushing in. He's playing that Feral Affinity. He gets a stun onto Raikou, so if Looney can never get out of combat, go into cat form, he can consistently stun up the enemy team of Method Black with that very precious Feral Affinity, but it does make him vulnerable as a target. So I think if Waz and Raikou, they can find an all-in attempt on Looney. If Raikou can pool a lot of his damage like the Frozen Orb, Comet Storm, Ice Nova, and Waz can save his Touch of Death, they might be able to just take down Looney through everything, especially without that frenzied regen like Guardian Affinity. It could be an opening for Method Black, but right now what they're doing, going after Maro, it's just not working out.
Oh, they're pressuring Waz as Chaz has been trying to sit down and regenerate mana throughout, but now costing huge defensive cooldowns right as Dampening starts to hit critical mass. This spells devastation for Method Black. The pressure's really on to Chaz. How much longer can he keep his team alive? They've got Touch of Death and Icy Veins. They've got one big swing left to try and throw at Wildcard Gaming. Potentially they could 100-0 Zeepai with no trinket. That's only really one opportunity I'm seeing right now for their team. Currently pinned at the pillar. Zeepai, Maro, triangle position. Looney sits down for a drink to further establish the mana advantage. Waz tries to find him. Manages to, but it's already too little too late. That's a significant lead for Wildcard Gaming. Raikou's going to pull the trigger on Icy Veins and try and get a kill here. Looney denies it with Iron Bark. Fortunately, Waz and Raikou have split up their Touch of Death and Icy Veins, so there will be another attempt for Waz to make a big push. But if they cannot get that swing, they are all getting whittled down by Wildcard Gaming's consistent pressure.
Yeah, once again, a stun going out onto Waz. He has Touch of Death rolling right now, but Maro, he just cyclones it up. Waz really not going to get too much value from that major offensive cooldown. Really good control here from Wildcard Gaming. Maro now getting bursted down. Raikou trying to do everything he can to start generating some pressure for his team, but Zeepai forces him to retreat back to the pillar out of line of sight. Like you said, Sid, both Raikou, Waz, they're rotting down. Waz now caught into a full stun. How much damage do they really have available? Zeepai trying to take him down, but I think Waz should ultimately survive. He has to diffuse magic, overlapped with a Touch of Karma. Chaz, in the meantime, hasn't really been able to sneak away and get a drink. So normally when your teammate has those defensive cooldowns available as a healer, you want to try to go and escape and get some mana back, but Method Black has been unfortunate in finding those opportunities.
Yeah, Maro and Zeepai have good positioning, constantly denying Method Black's drink attempts. This was a nice read on the blind pick, expecting Method Black, because they've been struggling so much with the Windwalker Death Knight, expecting Method Black to lock in a counter to that, and then picking the counter to that counter. Wildcard Gaming winning the mind game here in game number 1, and it could all come down to that blind pick victory, so that should this series swing to a game 5, they will have the map advantage and the comp advantage. So moving forward, if these teams go head-to-head in the next series, assuming that Method Black can't swing it back on a swing match, this blind pick is going to get even more interesting. We may see some even more peculiar compositions in the future. Waz is in trouble. Chaz has basically absolutely no mana left, just cowering in bear form at the pillar, trying to recover as much health as possible with Ysera's gift, but even that likely to not be enough. Waz is trying to make a push. They have basically no aggressive cooldowns to try and knock Wildcard Gaming down at this point. They're just taking more damage than they can deal. They're still stuck at the pillar. Earthquake ticking away. Maro in position with Starfall. Incarnation coming up in 20. Stormkeeper already available. Touch of Karma 5 seconds away if Zeepai wants to go for that move. 4 seconds until that opportunity may be lost. Waz gets hexed up. Raikou with the Dispel. Chaz managed to get mana back, surprisingly, amidst all of that. Maybe a bit of a blunder on the side of Wildcard Gaming that will allow Method Black a little bit longer of a leash.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see what exactly can happen. 32% dampening, but Waz and Raikou, they need to start finding pressure in this matchup. Now looking for a big all-in attempt onto Morrow, hitting the Frozen Orb, but not too much else. There is Touch of Death still available, as well as the Icy Veins at 15. Maybe Raikou and Waz, they want to try to get an all-in push with those two offensives. Chaz rotting down, Zeepai, Morrow still generating a lot of pressure for the team. This is Morrow's incarnation as he's looking to get really aggressive. This is the Touch of Death. Waz getting bursted down in a Lightning Lasso. Is he going to be able to get Karma off? Does manage to find it, making a push in the middle of the map with that cooldown, caught into a Hex, caught into a Cyclone. Such good control coming in from Wildcard Gaming. They're just denying Method Black at every opportunity.
Yeah, another opportunity to take out Waz. Gladiator's Maledict gets to diffuse magic off. Waz holds on a bit longer. Chess still, that drink that he got earlier is the only thing keeping their team in the match. Maybe they could potentially pull off a miracle. There's decent pressure on Morrow. He's trying to retreat away, gets Ring of Peace back into midfield for Raikou to tee off. Raikou trying to sneak in a polymorph on Looney. Looney not falling for it. Waz gets bursted. He ports nowhere. That mistake is going to cost Method Black game number 1.
Oh, ports, man. They can definitely be like that sometimes. Wildcard Gaming going to be able to take down the first game. And Zico, I kind of want to start by talking about why you think each team went for the composition that they went for. There are obviously a lot of head games going on between these two teams. They've played this exact matchup and then gone on to play the grand final against each other just so many times. So why on this week, the final week of the AWC for the spring season, do these guys go for these comps?
It's just Wildcard Gaming again with heads-up play. They definitely won this blind pick. What it comes down to is Method Black have been running the DK DH Resto Druid as their primary comp. Wildcard Gaming loses to that composition with Mage Alley and with the Moonkin Alley Resto Druid every single time when they face each other. So what Wildcard Gaming does is they play the Windwalker DK Mistweaver, and that's been beating the DK Resto Druid and Demon Hunter. Now, Method Black finally last week found an answer for the Mistweaver, DK, and Windwalker, and that was the comp that they're running right now. So Method Black are expecting DK, Windwalker, Mistweaver. Wildcard Gaming knows, okay, there's no way Method Black are going to look in DK, DH anymore, so they are going to go for this pick, anticipating the Windwalker Mage. They get it right, and they win the blind pick. So there's a lot of comps to consider here, but basically, Method Black's Cleave beats Wildcard Gaming's Wizards. Wildcard Gaming's Cleave beats Method Black's Cleave. Method Black's Windwalker Mage beats Wildcard Gaming's Cleave. Yeah. So Wildcard Gaming's Wizards beat Method Black's Windwalker Mage.
You're going to get a test on that?
Very well, what Zico just did was kind of set up what we've seen over the past few weeks, right? They've fallen into this rhythm, and it is exactly the way you said it as well. With Wildcard Gaming is one step ahead, right? They're like, oh, you got an answer. Boom, another curveball. My favorite thing, though, has become at tournaments period now is watching Venruki. You may have seen me laughing. Watching Venruki watch other monks not hit good portals and just teleport somewhere where they shouldn't be. They have no business being, and Ven will just be like, just watch him die. So that portal, the pretty big mistake in your mind.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. They probably would have lost that matchup anyways, but it's just one of those things that, I mess it up myself, so I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but it's one of those things that a lot of monks in these tournaments are messing up, and that's a lifeline that you have in these tournaments to port behind the pillar, keep yourself alive, get out of line of sight, and time again, we're seeing these monks mess it up.
What do you think causes it? Because
I think there's just a lot of things that, as a Windwalker monk, you have a lot of different defensive cooldowns you have to rotate through. There's a lot of things to consider for any classes in World of Warcraft. So sometimes just one global cooldown mismanagement.
Not how you sounded last week. Last week was you just put it down after you port.
It is true.
Now you're trying to come up with excuses here.
No, we don't want that. Give it to us straight, Ven.
Ven's like, oh, man.
It's pretty easy. You press your portal and then you relay it instantaneously.
That's it.
That's it.
Ven's like, it's the last week.
But it's one of those things, when I play Monk and I mess it up, I'm like, damn, I suck.
Yeah. It's like there's no excuse, right? And you really do need to get that in your mind. But when you're in a situation like this where it's not necessarily your main, there is a decent amount of pressure because for these two teams, it's about the entire year. Wildcard Gaming just starting to become the more dominant team than Method Black. Method Black, the only team as well in Europe to stay together 6 weeks ago. The beginning of this year, this was the only roster that completely stayed together without a single roster change, and they looked fantastic at the very beginning. Now, Wildcard Gaming seems to have the upper hand, and Sid, they're going to have the momentum in our series here as they go to Ashmane's Fall with a composition that we know likes large maps.
Yep, but I expect Method Black to play Rogue Mage. I'm not sure why Looney went with Mistweaver over Druid blind.
They will lose to DKDH if he goes Druid.
You don't think they'd lose to DHDK even as Mistweaver? Or even harder to Rogue Mage?
I think they'll lose harder to Rogue Mage. But what would you rather play? The DKDH or the Rogue Mage?
I think I'd rather play the DHDK on this map.
They would not. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's the logic they're using here.
But I'm glad that maybe we'll get to see Method Black's Rogue Mage again. We haven't seen it in some time. They've been playing a lot of just counter strategies. But in this case, their Rogue Mage actually is the best counter strategy. So
yeah, so let's talk about that. The Rogue Mage, why is it going to be able to counter what Looney's bringing here, Zico?
Well, if you have a Resto Druid, the big conversation here is essentially Mistweaver versus Resto Druid. Mistweaver is going to be a lot more susceptible to getting crowd controlled, and the Resto Druid, of course, he's going to have an easier time avoiding that because, you know, he's a bear or a cat or, you know, a reindeer, whatever he wants, basically, which is going to make him immune to polymorphs. And that's what it comes down to. You get the sheeps on Looney, all of a sudden you can punish Morrow, but Method Black are not going to be going for the Rogue Mage. They are going to be playing the DHDK Mistweaver themselves, so they're really spicing things up here for us. Usually we see both of these teams in this scenario play these comps, but with a Resto Druid, both of them are going to be shying away from that. And this is something I've been wanting to see from Chaz. I've been wanting to see Chaz on that Mistweaver more, and I'm glad that he's been putting in the time now to bring it out for us.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because in a lot of ways, Subatish, you were starting to say that you wanted to see a melee cleave on Ashmane's. Ashmane's gets set up, though, by Method Black. So they do have that in mind. Looney moves to the Monk. They go, okay, we're not going to take the opportunity to try to play Rogue Mage. We're not going to try to be getting things like Polys out because he's not a Druid. Instead, we're going to stick to our guns here, and we're going to bring this. So why do you think they set this matchup up?
It's safer than Rogue Mage. The Mage is a lot more susceptible to getting blasted by an Elemental Shaman or a Balanced Druid. The Unholy Death Knight will basically self-sustain with the Counteract Magic Renewing Mist. The Death Knight will effectively take no damage to the composition that Wildcard Gaming is playing, with Chaz playing Mistweaver combined with Deathstrike, and then Raikou is the same case with the Soul Leech. So this composition is just very easy to heal in general, and usually in a tournament setting, you want to pick a composition where you're going to make the least amount of mistakes, or less likely to. So if you can get away with playing a composition that's as durable as this and still do enough damage to end the game, then that's just the safer option overall. I'm not sure if they are able to make it deeper into dampening, though, on Ashmane's Fall, if Looney is able to escape and drink, and there may be potential in deeper dampening stages for Wildcard Gaming to get a kill, which is likely why they locked in the Wizard Cleave blind on the large map that was selected by Method Black. They're just trying to take advantage of the territory, even though they should be disadvantaged compositionally.
All right, so basically what we heard from Sid just now, when you look at what Method Black has, ease of execution. That's something that they're going to have that will enable them to not have to go for a volatile strategy that could potentially blow up in their face. Wildcard Gaming, how do they counter here? How do they manage to not only beat Method Black when they have everything going in their favor, but also beat them on their pick?
Well, I think the main thing is going to be denying Raikou, getting mana rifts consistently on Looney. I really don't see Wildcard Gaming winning this game early. Like, this is going to be a deep dampening game for sure. The only way I really see it closing out early is if Method Black is really on point. Raikou's just landing mana rift after mana rift. Looney's completely out of mana, and then they could probably take someone down. But with Morrow on the Balanced Druid, Zeepai on the Elemental Shaman, you have Swapsy on the Unholy Death Knight, and Raikou on the Havoc Demon Hunter, there's really not too many more classes that have that amount of self-healing. Like, this is going to be a late game, so for Wildcard Gaming, what they're going to have to do is bring it to that stage, allow Looney to have mana to fight on at that point, and then maybe at that 40% number that we talk about, where Unholy Death Knights start becoming a target, you could potentially take Swapsy down.
Now, yesterday, we got to see a little bit of Moonkin action, trying to extend it into the late portions of the game, and we saw, I think it was like a 50% dampening incarnation and a 75% dampening incarnation, and neither of them...
68%.
Was that what it was?
If it's 50%, then it's 68%.
Okay. Well, either way. we saw Moonkin go into Incarnate and not deal like any damage, right? So when we look at Morrow, has he been able to just create more pressure than we've seen other Moonkins create?
I think it's more so coordination. So the Balanced Druid right now, its damage output is not really where it shines. It's support, and then its ability to combine a couple Star Surges in with your partner's burst. So if you're not coordinating with your partner and it's just you trying to maximize your damage, that's not where Moonkin is good. Moonkin is terrible at that. So if that's like an older style of Moonkin, maybe like a Legion style of Moonkin, maximizing your damage and just focusing on as much output. Now it's about saving your resources up, stalling out or kiting someone into a bad position, and then blasting them with your partner. And in this case, it just appears to me that Zeepai and Morrow are more coordinated than that we saw of Valido and Packrat. It seems like Valido and Packrat's strategy was, let's just do as much damage as we can, but that's not how those classes win right now currently. They win by combining their damage together and KOing someone 100-0 in a Lightning Lasso or with a Stormkeeper in a Bash. And Wildcard Gaming are playing that strategy a lot better, which is why we saw them have so much more pressure in game number 1.
Yeah, this was a composition yesterday we were like very surprised to see it yesterday. And now today, I think we're seeing a lot of the reasons why this composition does work. Wildcard Gaming looking very good here. They also are going to be trying to go for a deep in dampening game. Will Method Black be able to, on their pick, take down game number 2? You guys at home think the Wildcard Gaming is going to be able to do it. 53% of you, and this is a vote against Method Black. Slowly, we've seen more and more of these votes go in Wildcard Gaming's favor. I'm not surprised at all after what we've seen them do.
I mean, Wildcard Gaming, they've won the last 2 cups. They've just been owning Method Black, winning game number 1 as well, out mind gaming Method Black. But now Method Black, they have an opportunity to strike back in game number 2. This is their map pick on Ashmane's Fall as well as their compositional advantage. We'll have to see what they can get done.
Looks like Raikou is employing that Mana Rift strategy, immediately going after Looney, and that is going to be very difficult for him to deal with throughout the fight. Fortunately, bringing in a Balanced Druid and an Elemental Shaman, he will have access to Cyclone and Hex. Chaz not playing the Restoration Druid will not be able to remove the Hex. There's already just good damage on Looney. I'm surprised to see this much pressure from Raikou early on. Looney has that Gladiator safeguard. Proc moves in with Way of the Crane to try and add some damage. Maybe he's running the grapple weapon. That could be a strategy with the 2 wizards to try and blast Swapsy down in a Lightning Lasso into a grapple weapon. I'm curious to see if that is something that Wildcard Gaming intend to employ here strategically. That would be one way for them to get around the Death Strike.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see if they can get that done. Chaz throwing out the Lightning Cocoon to counteract the Lightning Lasso of Zeepai on Raikou. Raikou manages to stay alive. Swapsy trades out his anti-magic shell. For pressure, it seems relatively even, but that was a lot of the offensive cooldowns available for Wildcard Gaming. That was the Incarnation, and they really didn't get too much. The anti-magic zone is a good trade for Swapsy. He's always going to have that available as long as he waits for it. Life Cocoon, a short cooldown for Chaz, so Method Black is in a favorable position right now.
The Mana Rifts keep coming. Looney trinkets out to avoid this one. Raikou overextends and gets stunned up by Morrow, then cycloned at low health when Chaz wanted to connect some heals. Chaz is also playing the Gnome Mistweaver Monk, which is why we typically don't see a lot of Gnomes, but they are very effective against Balanced Druids, especially as a healer. So it's to avoid the Entangling Root Solar Beam combination of crowd control, which could be a win condition. This is a huge amount of pressure, a very unexpected amount of pressure from Wildcard Gaming when facing this composition that Method Black had brought forward, and they're taking full advantage of the map. If Looney can maintain his mana as healthy as he is so far, I actually think they're going to take this.
Yeah, things are looking really good for Wildcard Gaming right now. This has been a kind of a question for us. Is Chaz on the Mistweaver Monk, and in addition to that, Zeepai on the Elemental Shaman. He always seems to make it work when other Shaman cannot, which is definitely something Wildcard Gaming has in their favor, especially with some of the purge changes. If he's just purging off all the Renewing Mist Chaz has available, it might be difficult for Chaz and something he hasn't really had to deal with on that Mistweaver Monk.
Solar Beam landed on Chaz's cast, now into a bash. Good crowd control from Morrow. Look, gets the Cyclone off the back end of that chain, forces the Gladiator's Medallion even lower on health. Now Cyclone rotated to Raikou. And this is why, like, Morrow is so good on Balancer as well, taking his knowledge and experience on Mage, really getting good, effective crowd control and setting up burst moments, really shining on the team of Wildcard Gaming right now. Definitely one of his best performances on Balanced Druid so far. Perhaps this composition is going to work out for Wildcard Gaming throughout the series. Looney is actually ahead on mana, which is not supposed to be the case when facing Mana Rift Demon Hunters.
Yeah, but the problem is Raikou, he's just been pressured so much in this matchup Now trading out his Blur, running in once again to the pillar. He's in some trouble. Looney's trying to close out the game. Beautiful ring of peace, knocking him back in line of sight of Zeepai, of Maro. What is Raikou going to do? Trying to keep himself alive with that metamorphosis. Pressuring down, anti-magic zone gets traded out once again by Swapsy, but that's too early. Now Maro, there's a huge opportunity. In 6 seconds, Incarnation's coming up, and Wildcard Gaming could potentially take Raikou down.
Chaz is just getting bodied with crowd control so far in game number 2, and Wildcard Gaming are taking full advantage of that fact. This could easily be it for Raikou as he gets bursted down and gets KO'd. Wildcard Gaming, we thought this composition stood no chance whatsoever in the current meta, but they just made it look like the strongest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I really stand corrected. I thought that was going to be a long game, but from start to finish, Wildcard Gaming, they really put it to Method Black. And once again, now Method Black, they have to be second-guessing themselves. At first, they're afraid of the Windwalker Death Knight, and now this new composition, I don't know. That seemed really good.
Yeah, I think we watched Wildcard Gaming play this, and it looks like they're playing different classes than we saw yesterday when we looked at this composition. Zico, what happened?
Well, they're playing, honestly, Chaz's Monk really got punished this game. I wasn't too impressed with what was happening here. He was just getting crowd control time and time again, and honestly, a little bit of sloppy defense as well from Method Black. Preemptive anti-magic zone when Raikou wasn't really stunned up, and then of course he's going to get stunned up soon enough, and he doesn't have his Gladiator's medallion available. Not gonna be able to activate that darkness for that big Earthshock Lightning Lasso combo that we see. Zeepai has his Stormkeeper channeled up, and then of course Chaz gets Cyclone, so beautiful crowd control there. Raikou has his darkness, not gonna be able to activate it, and Zeepai has enough Maelstrom as well. Actually, he didn't even get that Earthshock out. It was just the Incarnation there at the end with the Star Surge, really managing to snag that kill early on. I think the big story here is Chaz's Monk, and I'm not sure. How did we feel about it?
I think that that's a very fair question to ask, to actually look at. Was this just Wildcard Gaming playing out of their mind, or do we see Method Black maybe drop the ball a little bit? Either way, Method Black just got bodied. This may be a 3-0. We're going to find out right after this. Up to that break was, why did that second game look like that? Was it Wildcard Gaming playing out of their mind? Or is Chaz just not the strongest Mistweaver? And I think we should really dive into that a little bit more. Do you think, Supatis, that we'll be seeing Chaz and the Monk again?
I don't know if I necessarily want to at this point, but maybe it's worth just giving it another shot and then trying to get a rematch, which they'll likely get, having 15-0 against Change My Mind, which is their opponents in the lower bracket should they lose this next match. But I still think their Rogue Mage is their best answer to this composition in particular with the Mistweaver variant, and that's what they've played into Elemental Shamans as the team of Method Black. Almost every time that a team plays an Elemental Shaman composition, they run Rogue Mage, which is basically the kryptonite for Elemental Shamans, so it's very surprising to not see Method Black use that in game number 2. Now down 2 points, it's going to be, I don't want to say impossible, but really hard for them to come back in this series. I think it's almost, they should start planning their game plan for their blind pick for their rematch. Like, it's already out of control, I think, at this point. Okay, so Chaz is going to be subbing out the Mistweaver Monk. I think that's a wise decision.
What do you think, Zico? Ruins of Lordaeron, this could be the last game of the series as well. Chaz going to be switching his healer, but they're still going to be going for Cleave.
This is kind of what I expected him to do. Rest Druid, DK, and DH. I feel like Wildcard Gaming kind of threw them for a loop when they said, hey, we're going to lock in the same Wizard Cleave that you guys have been beating, but not with our Rest Druid, instead with the Mistweaver, and Method Black didn't really respond to it properly. They went for their own Mistweaver, and I feel like it's a combination of the big map, Wildcard Gaming playing good, and also Chaz just didn't have the greatest game on that Mistweaver in the last game. I still want to see him bring it out, not in this matchup though. So I'm glad to see the Druid here, and I think that this should be Method Black should be able to put a point on the board with this matchup and this map.
Okay, so you think the map's going to go in their favor. Ben, what do you think? Do you think that the Druid's enough of a change going to Ruins of Lordaeron as well?
Potentially. I mean, I still think Method Black's main win condition is making sure Raikou can afford to be pushing in and getting mana rifts on Looney. With the way Looney's been positioning, it's been difficult for Raikou. We've seen Wildcard Gaming with a ton of pressure really early on Raikou, forcing him to run away, not get those mana rifts. And if Looney isn't getting mana rifted down. I can't help but feel like he's going to have the mana edge in this particular matchup. So I think it's going to come down to Method Black's ability to really consistently nail those mana rifts. If they can do that, they can walk away with the win. But Wildcard Gaming, they've been really impressing me, and I've never seen a team play this composition in particular as well as they are right now, and I think that's kind of throwing Method Black off their game.
I think we're really starting to see them implement Morrow in a way that's fantastic, and it could be one of the things that takes them to an even higher level, which we didn't think was really possible. How do you... They have to beat themselves, right? They are the bar at this point.
We were all talking yesterday. I was like, why are Moonkins so bad? But when Morrow plays it, when Wildcard Gaming implements it, doesn't look bad.
No.
Good, yeah.
Everybody else looks bad right now. Morrow looks fantastic. I think that seeing Chaz on the Druid is going to be really good as another data point, though, right? Because we saw Morrow get to steal candy from a baby, essentially, there. Like, that's one of the things in the back of my head right now is, was it the healer just being a little bit weaker in the last one? We'll find out on Ruins of Lordaeron. But I think Sid brings up a really good point as well when he starts to kind of look at how EU's going to look for today. We're in a situation where you talk about history between teams. You expect Method Black to be able to go, what? They've gone 0-15 already. You expect them to go 0-18 once they actually do drop down to lower bracket. You expect them to drop down to lower bracket. And then you think about Wildcard Gaming in this head-to-head matchup. In the past few weeks, Sid, it's been nearly as dominant.
Yeah, Wildcard Gaming, something like 30-2 or something in these past couple cups. Like, that's a pretty,
over every team, not just Method Black.
Yeah, that's a pretty insane win rate just to have overall in a tournament setting on broadcast days. So what I'm curious to see now as we're getting closer to the spring finals is Wildcard Gaming against a team like the Super Frogs, where in North America it doesn't seem like anyone has the best answer other than Rogue Mage potentially into the Super Frogs. I really want to see like these Wizard matchups. Wildcard Gaming are showcasing this one, and then Super Frogs are playing the Destruction Mage. It's going to be very interesting to see Europe versus North America in those spring finals. Of course, we still have the last cup today to finish, but I'm just starting to think into the future and getting excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Wildcard Gaming, though, you kind of do have almost an easy job with how good you've been. You got to think about Method Black, and that's it, because you're going to play them twice every tournament. I feel like Wildcard Gaming probably gets together. They're in a call, and they're just like, okay, how are we going to destroy them in the blind pick? And they just spend all of their time deciding how to dismantle Method Black. They're going to try to get the 3-0 here on Ruins of Lordaeron.
All right, Ruins of Lordaeron, as it is a cemetery, would be a fitting final resting place, and we're going to have to wait and see if Zeepai ends up being that weak link.
Oh, stolen joke. And this is Ruins of Lordaeron. It could potentially be a fitting final resting place for Method Black if they can't get it done here in game number 3. We're going to be stealing jokes. 2 can play that game.
And guys, keep in mind, as you see some pressure going out into Zeepai, he's going to be in that life cocoon. He could be the weak link.
All right, match point for Wildcard.
It's not a rest the show, man.
I know. Wildcard Gaming up 2-0 in this series with a composition that we basically counted out entirely yesterday, and already bursting Raikou down heavily, forcing multiple defensive cooldowns early on for Method Black. Finally, some counter aggression on to Morrow. It does appear that Method Black are focusing much more so on just raw pressure on Morrow rather than only the mana rift strategy. Looney now with Way of the Crane is going to be adding some extra damage. He gets imprisoned away, but Raikou just gets destroyed by Zeepai right now. Anti-magic zone is exchanged. Raikou is just leaving its defense. We saw this cost the game. The Ring of Peace is denying him being able to reconnect into it, but with the Soul Leech healing, it appears to be more than enough to recover and stabilize. However, Chaz playing on this Druid, you can already see the mana advantage establishing itself for Wildcard Gaming, and on Ruins of Lordaeron, I feel like it'll be very easy for Morrow and Zeepai to stop him from drinking, and I can't help but feel that Method Black should have pulled out their Rogue Mage when facing this composition. It's already spiraling out of control.
Still, though, even with Chaz going to be on that healer, you know, we really saw him try to branch out in game number 2. It's nice to see him back on his roots, and I think he should be able to stave off this aggression.
Goodness gracious, what is going on? Full stun onto Zeepai. Good pressure here for Method Black. Good offensive Cyclone coming in from Chaz as well, slowing down some of the healing Looney has available. If we look at mana, this is what I was kind of afraid of. Although Raikou and Swapsy, they're putting out good pressure on Zeepai and Morrow, they haven't really been landing too many mana rifts onto Looney. Finally, one's going to land onto Looney, getting a little bit of his mana down. Way of the Crane activated. Raikou taking a huge burst of damage. Activates Blur to save his life, but Chaz mana is not doing well. Already around 60%. Right now he's in stealth, trying to sneak away and get a drink. I think Zipa is going to be able to easily shut that down. You can see him patrolling right now. As soon as Chaz gets out of South, I think it's likely Zipa will deny his drink. Maro in a good position as well. And that's really what it's going to come down to for Wildcard Game. If they can deny the drinks, then they're going to have a favorable matchup. But if the Black can sneak away, it's going to be bad for them.
Maro got stun locked a couple inches away from denying the drink, which now allows Chaz to reset his mana pool. Very important for the team of Method Black moving forward should they want to rely on Mana Rift and this mana burn strategy for victory. Crowd control onto Chaz. Maro is doing a great job at balancing his crowd control and his burst. Curious to see if he can pull through for another victory. We've seen Chaz consistently getting controlled in that last game. Now on Druid has a bit easier of a time avoiding it, but still could be a liability if he is caught off guard. Swapsy gets swapped too. What was that hit? 10% health remaining and then an immediate top off from Chaz, so not so scary anymore, but...
Hello, Zipa.
I mean, if that happens again, one less heal over time effect, Chaz isn't ready for it, or gets crowd controlled for even a millisecond, I think Wildcard Gaming are going to clean sweep this.
Yeah, I mean, things are looking good, especially if they can pull off that kind of burst damage, but mana now in favor of Method Black in this matchup. Let's see what they can get done. Swapsy getting a little bit low right now. Trades out the Icebound Fortitude. Chaz caught into a stun. Big aggressive plays here by Maro. Swapsy could be in some trouble.
Ring of Peace.
Trades out the anti-magic zone. Ring of Peace denies that actually a little bit there. But Swapsy does manage to find his way back into the safety of that cooldown. A defensive cycle coming in with a full hex on Chaz. Beautiful crowd control from Wildcard Gaming. Swapsy has to hold on. Should be able to do so with the anti-magic zone and some death strikes, but the Wildcard Gaming
Chaz is getting owned. Chaz is just getting destroyed right now. I've never seen Chaz get played like this before in a tournament setting. Wildcard Gaming are all over him. Total control. This is a matchup that I did not expect to be one-sided in favor of Wildcard Gaming at all. Finally, some counter aggression here with crowd control on Looney. Maro gets bursted down to half, but appears to be all right. Cyclone on Raikou. Curious to see who Wildcard Gaming are going to go after next, if they're going to continue after Swapsy. This is the closest we've seen a Death Knight come to dying before dampening, and if Looney maintains his mana, it's likely that we will be able to see them even get to deep dampening, and if you're Method Black, that's getting scary. Chaz is stunned up. Raikou gets bursted. Stun on the follow-up by Looney. Great follow-up. Way of the Crane adding a ton of damage. Raikou on the run. He's trying to get out of line of sight, but Looney's in hot pursuit. It's 3 members of Wildcard Gaming. Chaz needs to recover with not much defense available. Actually swapping to Looney, trying to punish his push. But now Raikou gets peeled away by Maro. Once again, good teamwork on the side of Wildcard Gaming.
Yeah, Looney does manage to portal away with that Transcendence. Actually drops a Ring of Peace. Gonna be looking to get a drink right now, but Swapsy immediately shuts it down. You can see him in a great position. Looney still way ahead on mana, though. Once again, Chaz, he might have to sneak away and get some drinks. Swapsy's getting taken down quite quickly as he makes a push onto Looney, but that's the problem. When Raikou and Swapsy, they go after Looney. Maro, Zipa, they're able to easily punish him. Wildcard Gaming with great positioning in this matchup, making it easy for Looney to sit back, heal, and then when he needs to play catch-up, he can use that Way of the Crane, get a lot of burst damage for his team, in addition to easily top everyone off.
All right, Swapsy still the target of choice here. Double stun combo. Wildcard Gaming are just insane. Typically, we see this Elemental Shaman Boomkin comp play a boring strategy of just hiding at the pillar, running around, and trying just to live and do as much damage as possible, but they are coordinating defense and offense so perfectly together in tandem that they're making it look like they basically counter Method Black with this current composition. Zipa moves over, denies the drink. How much did Chaz get, though? He was down for a while. He may have been able to regenerate a significant amount as dampening ramps, and it's that magic number, that 40% mark, although with this team, maybe it's 20% to take out Swapsy. Chaz needs to get ready for that. Looney now goes for a drink, but they're pressuring Maro, and Chaz is looking to deny it. Maro needs to be careful. If Looney gets crowd controlled on his way back, it could be devastating. Looney moves back in line of sight, chucks out that life cocoon, and then immediately line of sights any incoming crowd control, stabilizing the team. They set up a swap to Chaz. Wildcard Gaming continue to mix it up.
Yeah, Chaz under pressure right now. Barskin was used, no trinket available. Frenzied regen should be enough to keep him alive, but that was a great attempt by Wildcard Gaming. Like you said, keeping Method Black on their toes, keeping them guessing, but Method Black has found some pressure in this matchup as well. Looney consistently looking for drinks. That's an opportunity for Swapsy Raikou to start getting some damage rolling onto Zipa, onto Maro. Mana still in favor of Wildcard Gaming, though, and Looney really, his only opportunity to drink in this matchup with the way Method Black is playing it is with that Ring of Peace. In the meantime, big damage on Raikou.
Ring of Peace knocks Raikou out of the defense of that anti-magic zone, and Wildcard Gaming have crafted a composition that could totally dominate Method Black here in the upper bracket. Crowd control secured at low health. Mana advantage significantly in favor of Wildcard Gaming. Wave the Crane available. Swapsy's getting destroyed. Anti-magic shield appears to be enough for him to stabilize. Maro stabilizes with Life Cocoon as Looney tried to sneak away. I don't think he has that much opportunity though. Maro's under too much fire. Looney moves in. This could be the last push of the match if they want to commit that way of the Crane. They go for it, but Raikou denies it. Looney trinkets out. He could get punished on his trinket. Where's the punish from Method Black? Doesn't look like they have it. Looney rolls over, tries to stop Chaz from drinking. He doesn't know where he is. They manage to find it. Swapsy gets bursted down. The Lightning Lasso combo. Double stun. Crowd control looks solid. Swapsy trades, but it's a little bit late. He manages to recover, but 20% more dampening. That Death Strike is not going to allow him to recover like that again, and they still have the mana advantage.
Yep, definitely, and they've been doing a much better job making sure Chaz can't sneak away for those drinks. Looney a little bit vulnerable right now with no Life Cocoon for another, I guess, only 6 seconds. Once that's up, I think Wildcard Gaming is going to be A-OK. Swapsy with not too much defense left, getting bursted down, lower and lower. No anti-magic shell. Ironbark trades out from Chaz. Swapsy trying to get out of line of sight, but the Lightning Lasso might have taken him down. Good bash by Chaz, realizing he probably couldn't heal through the damage. He had no choice but to stop the Lightning Lasso. That was a really good read. It was one of the only reasons Swapsy's still alive.
Wildcard Gaming are thirsty for blood here in game number 3, and also thirsty for mana. Looney just drank back to full. This is a huge advantage for Wildcard Gaming as we get closer to that magic 40% mark. Looney pulls the trigger on Way of the Crane. That's going to add a huge amount of damage that Chaz does not have the mana to deal with. All 3 members of Wildcard Gaming are just going right through Swapsy. Chaz still crowd controlled. Nothing left. Retreating back for 2 more seconds. Needs to make it to the anti-magic zone, but Ring of Peace could deny it. Does he have the Death's Advance to remove the knockback effect? Maro gets pressure, but Swapsy's still low. Who's going to fall first? Anti-magic zone. Where's the Ring of Peace? He gets thunderstormed out of it by Z-Pie. Great knockbacks. Good denial. Swapsy makes his way back in. But Stormkeeper almost closing it out. Chaz manages to recover and stall the fight out a bit longer, but we are now 12% away from that 40% magic number. And at that point, if you're Swapsy, you're not getting out of this alive.
I mean, Chaz, look at his mana. There's nothing left for Chaz. If he can sneak away for a drink, it's going to be huge. Z-Pie has to deny it. Chaz is going to recover so much of his mana. He literally had nothing. Oh, this is a blunder for Wildcard Gaming. You're going to be able to recover a lot. And now Wildcard Gaming is actually falling a little bit behind, even on mana now. Both teams are. Maro down to 40% health. Looney with not too much to keep him alive. Might have to use that Way of the Crane, but that is such an expensive spell. Wildcard Gaming, if they consistently have to rely on that Way of the Crane, they could be burning through their mana so quickly.
All right, let's see. Wildcard Gaming are so close to being able to find victory here. 8% more dampening, but Looney's expended a lot of mana trying to get aggressive before that point. Perhaps he should have just been patient and waited it out. We'll have to wait and see. Swapsy trades. Overlapped with Ironbark. Big mistake. Stack up for a double stun. Good punish by Looney. Where's the follow-up? No one's in line of sight to get follow-up crowd control. Wildcard Gaming are just dogpiling on top of Method Black here to close it out. Huge Lightning Lasso. Way of the Crane once again. Looney goes all in for the kill. How can Chaz keep him up? He's got the tiniest bit of mana left to do it. If they don't get a kill here, Looney's almost tapped on mana. Swapsy on the run. He's managed to avoid death. Chaz recovers. Mana evens out. This is still anyone's match.
Yeah, definitely. Now full bash on to Chaz. Do they have any follow-up crowd control? Maro getting pressured down. He might have been playing a little bit too aggressive here with Looney with no safety nets left. There's no Way of the Crane for 30 seconds, no Life Cocoon for 50 seconds. Method Black now have an opportunity to get really aggressive. Looney also has no trinket, so even if he can get the Way of the Crane, if Raikou and Swapsy can find some crowd control, they might be able to just deny it. Meantime, though, Swapsy getting bursted down. Huge damage coming in from Maro. Swapsy's still just trying to use this pillar to avoid any incoming spell damage from Wildcard Gaming. He does manage to stabilize. Method Black stay in it.
1% dampening away from the magic 40% marker, but Z-Pie could die before it. He pre-astral shifts the incoming stun, stabilizes. One more Way of the Crane possibly left in the tank for Looney. They can combine it with Innervate. They are going to have a Way of the Crane. They go for it. It's all or nothing at this point for Wildcard Gaming. It's the 40% mark. They need to take Swapsy down. Will they be able to do it? Triple stun. Nice Ring of Peace onto the anti-magic zone. Good denial. Follow-up stun. Perfect execution. Swapsy holds on by a thread. How on earth is he still alive at this point? Overlapping now with the Ironbark anti-magic shield. That defense will be fading shortly, and once it is gone, there is nothing left for Swapsy to stay alive. It's just going to be a dance with death, and Swapsy needs to make the decision soon. Does he push forward, or does he try and run and hide? It looks like pushing forward is the option of choice currently. Chaz is trying to sneak for a drink. Maro's getting pressured. he's not able to allow Looney to sit down for a drink. Would have liked to seen this lightning lasso on Swapsy instead. Potentially the interrupts available dictated that one, but now Chaz has to heal 2 members with 0 mana. Looney has to do the same, and surprisingly, this is still anyone's fight.
Swapsy in a lot of trouble. A beautiful Ring of Peace coming in from Looney, once again denying the darkness of Raikou. Swapsy has to retreat. Zeepai, Looney all over him. Way the crane gets used. Can they take him down? Yes, they do. Wildcard Gaming with this Moonkin Elemental Shaman 3-0. Method Black sending them to the lower bracket.
Some real signs of life in the end of that game from Method Black. The fact that they're able to survive some of those pushes is bonkers, but I think, Zico, this may be the most dominating win that we've seen out of Wildcard Gaming in a series against Method Black. They look like they're on a completely different planet, and that is a planet filled with stars and suns all controlled by Morrow.
Yeah, Morrow looked like Super Mario there. He was just having a phenomenal performance on this Boomkin. Really just managing. Usually when we see these Moonkins, they are forced to just sit in bear form a lot of the time, but Morrow able to get out so much control with those Cyclones, able to do so much damage as well, really making his incarnation count for his team. He had great interrupts, shutting down a lot of these drinks as well, and honestly, Zeepai as well. Zeepai has been doing such a great job on this Elishaman, and Looney is really the X factor as well. On this Mistweaver, he's been able to dodge so many of these mana burns, and he's been just going for the drinks at the right time, going in for the kill. You can see him there at the end as well with that Way of the Crane. This entire team, even though they found an answer for the melee cleave, they found another answer as well for that melee cleave, and that's really the sign of a great team that just keeps looking for better and better comps to run and practicing them and bringing them out and looking this good at them.